just here to finally get a video out showing the development flow in action. So I'm just going to show basically how I do my job, or how I work on this project. Also going to go over some of the milestones I made, because obviously during the last meeting, through no fault of my own, apart from the fact that I chose to remain in Australia, with the shittiest internet ever, I kept cutting out the meeting. So obviously I couldn't really articulate everything I'd done, everything that was going to be happening. So I'm going to try and go over what has been done this meeting, but the main purpose is the development workflow. So let's just get started. So I have over here in the terminal, left window or left section is the automating metadata, the actual repository we're using, and then this one is the client, which is actually the repository that I'm using, and then we have a sub-module in the automating metadata repository that drags everything I do from this repository into here. And if you're wondering why I have a towel on my chair, it's because it may be 1:30 in the morning, but it's also 33 degrees Celsius here, and leather chairs are really fucking hot. Okay, but what I'm actually building. So we're going to go back to this tab. I'm going to run this, and I'm going to go here, sign in, everything. So we've got browser window on the right hand side, and we've got my code editor everywhere else. So just very simple client. I'm not going to go into too much detail here because I have actually recorded this 3 times and failed. There's always been something going wrong, and I don't really want to go over it again. Basically, just have this journal client. We have user profiles. Here's me. Here's my name. Here's my location. Here's my images, because I am a vain person, but I'm not vain enough to actually put my picture on my profile account. Yeah, but we just have here's a post. Here's another post with an image. Here's some more test posts, and then we go to, oh, hello, this one else called Liam. Oh, actually, this Liam did actually put a photo of himself there. That's a great photo. The Australian soccer is, where is that? But yeah, so basically what we just do is, this client is just where you'll create posts, browse different articles, and play in the sandbox. So what is the sandbox? Well, as we see here, we have user objects, and users are just fields in a database, in the profile or the users table in a database. And our database is a relational PostgreSQL database. But yeah, we'll go and what do you know about that later. We see here, go to Gizmotron, it's me, it's localized 3000/post, which is where all the journal stuff is, /profile, and then here is the profile ID. What if we want to go to a different plan? Let's say now we've got profiles. We'll have data sets. Now data sets can be linked to articles, or they can be independent of articles. And for all the demos, all the content that I'm building right now, it's just focused around planets, and that's just because planets are what I'm most knowledgeable about. What I've built this client for initially is, the first version is focusing on classifying different planets, discovering new planets, and getting rewarded for it. But that's not important. But what is important is this part of the client. So the idea is that for every different type of data set, whether it's planets or whether it's frogs in a national park, or mines, surveys, whatever, you'd have a slug like planets or /frogs, whatever. And then each item in that data set, for example, in here, each planet, we're going to refer to it as planets from now on, just to keep it simple. Each planet in the planets data set has an ID, like this one. And what would you know? What's going on here? Not found. Okay. Well, this is not good. shit. That's really not helpful. I don't know what's going on here. Is there something going on in Safari or something? Let's go to back up here. Move you out of the way. Here we go. Okay, so this is what it should look like. Okay, apparently something's fucking up there. Shit. Okay, point is, now we have planets, which again, is just individual data points on a data set. You just highlight an individual planet, which is, this one's Mars. It has its temperature highlighted, has a picture, which is again just picture stolen from my profile. But unlike a profile, which has, you know, your posts, your friends, your media, all your photos, and your about, your bio, this one has each planet or each individual data point has a bio, which will include things like its stats. It has data sets, which, you know, is every data set that references Mars in this case. So it could be a survey of all the planets in the solar system. It could be a survey of all the rocky objects above 50 kilometers across in the solar system. It could be a survey of all the oxidized or red rust planets that have been discovered. It could be anything, any data set, and similarly any article that mentions Mars, that mentions this data point, this data point ID in this data set, in Planet's database, a data set is mentioned here. Then in the sandbox, this is where things get interesting. So the sandbox will include things like a generator, and I'll actually just go back to this pose. I've had trouble getting the generator working again, so we'll just open this image in a new tab. So ignore this. We see over here we have a planet, which is just a planet editor. This is built in 3JS. Now we are going to rebuild this in Unity down the line. 3JS is just simpler and faster building right now. We just see just green and blue. This is, you know, just a very simple planet. I've just modeled it after Earth initially. Now, what is going on here? Well, we have different, as you can see, we have different variables. Like we have octaves, we have persistence, base, roughness, mean value, strength, and the stretch. Oh, that's a typo. Fuck. But yeah, so now why am I showing you this? Is because each data point is going to have to go back here. In the sandbox, each data point will have a generator. Now, for planets, it will generate a 3D representation of that planet based on its stats. For frogs, it will generate a 3D representation of a frog based on its stats. Both some things may not need to have a 3D generation, maybe not generate a 2D image, maybe you may not need generation at all. But here, based on the variables for that data point, we generate a visual representation. And we actually go into Superbase, which is what we're storing our database on. Go into the testing playground. We can see that in the planets table, we have just one planet right now that has this ID. It belongs to this user. We'll come to ownership in a moment. It has the name of Mars. Holy shit! Oh, thank Christ! I thought I wasn't recording for a second. Yeah, so and with temperature 201 Kelvin, this is to float. Base time is an integer if you aren't a nerd like me. Tick ID, that's just another thing. Tick is just like we're just using a module called Lightcurve that takes in what is known as a tick ID to generate different graphs and fields and stuff. There's nothing for another day. Basically, all you need to know is tick. That's just like each data point will also each data set will typically include things like a Python module or a R module or whatever, which can be used in Jupyter notebooks. So this ID for every different type of data point, for every different data set, there'll be different identifier, which is the ID, unique identifier, and then there'll be an identifier that is used in the linked Python module if there is one. for example, here this is generated by Superbase, and then here, if Mars was part of the light curve package, it would have a unique identifier, but this time it would be for light curve, which yeah. Now then we have a radius of 3389. That's in kilometers. And then we have some images for its profile section. Now we might just have one image, we may have no images, but I just modeled it after the profile component, just to simplify things. So this is where all the information for each individual data point is going to be. Okay. Now, what if I change the temperature of Mars? The temperature of Mars is actually 200 degrees Kelvin, or 200 Kelvin, not 201. So let's set that to 200, and you can see here, resets to 200. So, fuck, it's hot. Okay, so Sandbox is where you're going to see all the notebooks that have Mars, and you'll be able to edit those notebooks. You'll be able to play with them, and you'll also be able to fork the data point into your own articles. That's going a little bit later. Now, going back to ownership and stuff. Now, like long term, and this is something more related to star sales and what we're doing there. But basically, the idea is you'd be able to kind of reward users for contributing data. So if you contribute Mars to the planet's dataset or table, you're going to get some rewards. If you add data to a data point, or if you help classify, right, you're going to get reputation points. And going back to post section, this is where people will be discussing different data points, different micro frameworks they're working on, or micro data points or data sets or whatever. This is where people will discuss things. This is where people will reference things. We're also going to be having a section for the articles, which is where the automating metadata, the metadata extraction comes into it. But rather than just using this generic post type, which as you can see, this actually should be different. This should be different paragraphs. It's all linked in one paragraph, because unfortunately in the post table, it's just the content is just a single. Once it loads, okay. Yeah, so we can see here content is here. So it is multiple paragraphs here, but it is all is all returned as a single paragraph. So we need to fix that. But long term, not long term. Next steps, what we're going to do is we're going to create a new section for articles, which is where the actual journal articles are going to be. It's going to be something more like Medium, where you'll have one article per page. That article will have a section for things like its ORCID ID, its original link, its publishers, their ORCID profiles, data sets, Jupyter Notebooks return, as well as figures and graphs. And it's discussed in Wednesday's meeting on the 22nd of February. Graphs and images will be stored in the post table. So we see here media is just an array of JSON content, while let's say the datasets and notebooks that are part of that article will be in a separate table and referenced as a foreign key. Okay, it's sort of like how like here we've got posts, and a post could reference the identifier of a planet if it wanted to. Yeah. So we're going to create long form posts, which are going to be where the articles are, which is where the text extraction comes from, extracting the different metadata standards and creating and moving it into here. So then people can create their own articles, send them back and forth between different services. Okay. Now, in terms of like the data stuff, we're going to be moving to IPF. Right now, everything is on one database, one PostgreSQL database. Long term, we're going to be moving everything to, or everything except user data, onto nodes, onto IPFS. So everything will just be JSON contents. Every data set and every component of the data set will be JSON, which makes it easier to render. And for things like the generator component, we're going to create a visual engine where people can upload a 3D or a 2D model for, I guess, what would be the standard or default model for their data set. And then they can say, okay, let's say it's a frog, or let's say it's a planet. You can say, or that here, some fields that like every planet will have a different color, every frog will have a different color, every frog will have a different leg span, every frog will have a different have a boolean like is it a poisonous frog, and then when people are adding extra data to the frog's data set, then the generator will, if there's a requirement for a visual or otherwise representation of that object based on the fields that the user puts in, it's going to generate that representation. Okay, and if there is the generator obviously will generate a representation of objects that are already existing in the database, as seen in this image right here. Okay, so that's the. Okay, thank you. Okay, so that's the high-level overview of the client. We're going to come and we've got like all the generator stuff, the API, the authentication handling, lens protocol, how it all fits in. It's going to come another view of it. Right now, this video is just to show you one, the basic structure of the client as it is right now. Number two, the actual process of editing the code. So I'm going to, okay, now you work, okay, whatever. So I'm working on the long form journal section. So right now we've got a feed. So let's see, we're going to be needing to import for the authentication stuff. We're going to be needing to import things like use user and use base client. We're going to be importing use router as well. And I just had to organize my imports properly based on what they're actually doing. So we're going to do auth super. Actually, I don't think we need that yet. New keyboard problems, guys. New keyboard problems. Okay, and then we're going to be importing nope. Okay, pretty standard. Then we create a what do we have here? Journal homes. We just have a journal feed, which is next page. I'm going to set up the Subase client. And should we use session though? Shouldn't it? And for this, we're going to go back to index. Yeah, so can't officially because use session. That's the standard we've got so far. We need to create a credit card for articles right now. So we're going to then go into components. We're going to create a new directory called journal. I'm going to create a new component called article. Okay, and that's the sort of process of this. We just create some files, we edit the code, just as usual. See, there are only two files here. Now, I don't really like to do commits just for only a couple of lines of code, but the process, okay. And we're going to come back to the commit later. The next step is on Notion. There should be a new page created, new task, which I have for this section, we see that I have a branch called create article component in client. That's the name of the task, and that is generated from a Notion page. And then based on that Notion page, you can then go to a GitHub issue in the client repository. You see 39 minutes ago, new issue was created, create article component in client. Here's the original page. Here's the link to the original page. Here's the tags. I've signed to myself and everything. Extend the post component table to allow a full-length general articles. Pretty self-explanatory. So we create this new issue, which is, so process would just be going on to here. We would go to say automated metadata. We just create a new page, test page, and then from that automatically or within 15 minutes, a new GitHub issue is created. Okay, you create a new branch. So if the issue title or the task title is create article component in client, you create a new branch, and you do that by in the command line, go to git checkout -b new branch title, and then once you're finished, once you want to upload that new branch, the first one you would do git add dot, and then you would git commit with the name of the commit, and so on. Then you do git push, and then if you never pushed the new branch before, you do -- set upstream origin and then branch name. Okay, that's how we do it. But then here's where it gets interesting. So now we see that in the client repository, which is the repository I'm currently in, we're looking at issue number 23. So if I was creating a commit right now, I would type in git add dot, then I'll type in git commit -m, creating article component for #23. Now I'd actually recommend typically copying and pasting this issue, and we sometimes may have an issue generated in a different repository. You just pop that in there and then commit. But I don't want to commit yet because obviously I haven't finished this task. Once you've committed, you push it, and then you see in the repository, and this will be the same process if it was in the automating metadata repository, if it was in this repository, but we see when it loads, apparently the internet's decided to fuck up again. I guess you guys need to see how bad Australian internet is. Oh, now it's okay. You decided to prove me wrong. Whatever. And we can go to client. Go back. Okay, now it's working. Now we can see this new branch that is pushed to 41 minutes ago. Apparently, got a commit, adding document component, and we can see references this. Here are the changes that I made in that commit. Not very many. We go 23, and we see 40 minutes ago reference. So what that means is, for every commit, we reference a specific task or an issue, and then go back to a previous task, because we can see that there are actually quite a lot of branches on this repository. We've got a branch for staking reintegration. We've got a branch for the anomaly or planet profile index. So go back to here, for example, we see that here's an issue, here's a task, add lens graphical client to off-chain. Okay, so then here is so once you've finished a task, so let's say you may have a task to get your data complete, you may do 4 commits in that 24-hour period. All of those commits reference the issue, and all those commits run a specific branch for the issue. Okay. Now, once you finish that task, you create a new pull request, and you say, I want to go from the branch I was just in, and I want to merge that into the main branch. I would like it. You don't have to, but I would like it if you write a documentation, reference any previous task that your current task related to, if required. Like this task referenced a shit ton of tasks, and then we see that there were 7 commits from for the last 2 weeks for this task. Actually, a bit more than that. Here's a review, and because this new build is built correctly, everything's in the right place, everything working as intended, we're then able to merge these commits into the main branch. Okay, so if we go back to Discord, we can see we've talked about editing code locally. Code is pushed to GitHub, and then ignore the pass on to Keybase. That is just for security stuff, and this I'm handling that. That's done automatically. Commits from that push need to be tagged with an issue ID that links to the GitHub issue that is created. Okay. So, and remember, if Notion doesn't automatically create a GitHub issue, create one yourself on the automating metadata repository. Tag all of your commits for that task in that with that issue URL, and create a new branch with git switch-b branch name for that for that task. Once you finish task, you merge those commits back into the main dev branch with a new pull request, and then Notion automatically moves pages in, and then step 6 is the continuous integration, continuous development pipelines, which is just some GitHub actions and GitHub workflows that I handle. So if you guys, I'll be doing another video just showing exactly what's going on, why I've got stuff there, but everything. But as long as you guys follow steps 1 to 4, we're gonna have everything documented, which means everything's automatically. We don't have to worry about, if there's an issue or something, we don't have to go back through tons of commits. We know where everything is. So yeah, now it's literally 2 a.m. I've got a meeting at 6 a.m. I've got meetings all the way through to midday, and then I've got footy training after that. So I'm going to go to bed and hopefully wake up in a body that has had more than 10 hours of sleep over 2 weeks. So hopefully this video was good enough for you. I'm sorry I procrastinated so long, and yeah, we'll get more videos out like this. And also if there's a single issue with this video, like if the audio hasn't worked, whatever, I'm gonna put it up there anyway, because I just can't be stuffed recording for a 5th time. Anyway, laying out.